Hello, and thank you for joining us for Wisconsin Parkinson Association's educational video series. I'm Jeremy Otte, Director of Outreach and Education with Wisconsin Parkinson Association. WPA provides hope, community, support, and resources for people with Parkinson disease and their loved ones. Today, we are going to talk with Ruth Busalacchi, owner of SYNERGY HomeCare of Greater Milwaukee, and Cheryl Lentz, care partner of a person with Parkinson's disease. Today, we're going to discuss how caregiving looks today with the Safer at Home order, as well as what you can do as a care partner to take time for yourself, recharge your batteries, and stay healthy during this time. So welcome, Ruth and Cheryl. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Cheryl, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and your background?
Sure. I'm Cheryl Lentz. I have been a care partner with my husband of 43 years. The past 7 years, I have stayed at home with him, and we have 2 boys. One lives close by, which is such a great thing, and one lives about 45 minutes away with 8 grandchildren. So we have 2 dogs and a cat that nobody likes. And so we've had kind of a busy household. I run a home business, and am here with Peter. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. Ruth, you want to give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. Ruth Busalacchi, I'm the owner of SYNERGY HomeCare, as Jeremy mentioned. But prior to that, I was myself a caregiver for many, many years before I started SYNERGY and working in residential care. My father was diagnosed years ago with Parkinson's disease, and he also had Lewy body. So I was that daughter in the family who kind of understood the resources necessary for my father. And so throughout his process, I identified things that were, maybe subtle that my siblings wouldn't recognize, and was able to help my father navigate what might be coming next, and really gave him dignity of choice. But the other thing that I really recognized was that my mother needed support as well. She became a caregiver, and I knew that caregiving was going to grow. So I advocated for her as well to make sure that she stayed healthy. And so I have experienced some of the situations that some of your folks are experiencing. And it's really been a passion for me when I started SYNERGY to help families navigate this, because it's different for all of us. So that's the reason I started SYNERGY, and I have the wonderful support of my family. I have 3 daughters who are on some level helping in our family business, and grandchildren as well. I think that's about it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for giving us a little bit of the personal as well as professional. Cheryl, I'm going to start with you. You touched on in your introduction, you've been home for 7 years as a care partner. Can you share a little bit about how long you have been a care partner, and maybe some of your experiences being a care partner with a person with Parkinson's disease?
Well, I think it's been about 7 years. We're trying to figure out today exactly how long it's been. Peter had a lot of issues in the very beginning, so I quit a full-time job, and he had to quit his job. And so it was just all of a sudden, you are home. And so figure out what your new normal is, which was difficult. In the beginning, he could drive and do that kind of thing. Now that he no longer drives. So everywhere he has to go and every appointment he has to do is my responsibility to get him there. And so we've just found different things, to do and occupy his time, regulating, having a routine, I think is so important, right? So every day, to get the mail, you get up and get ready and, kind of follow a routine gives your day a purpose. And his exercising classes and that type of thing has been, very helpful in doing that. It's sometimes difficult to have everything is your responsibility, and your relationship changes in that aspect. Being married 43 years, most of the time Peter was in charge of everything. I was really blessed to be home with our kids and, doing things mainly in the home. So our roles have changed, but it's my turn. And, it's just something you need to accept and kind of go with the flow. There's good days and bad days. And you just have to pray for patience, I think, for the bad days, and you'll get through them.
I think you said something really important there, Cheryl, that I want to kind of direct to Ruth. When you did your intro, Ruth, you mentioned Dad had Parkinson disease, but you really saw the toll it took on Mom. Ruth,
Right.
Cheryl just shared how a lot of things have changed within her family dynamic. When you go in as a professional caregiver, what are the things you're looking for the care partner, and maybe some of the recommendations you would give as those roles change?
Sure. Cheryl, as I'm listening to you, you're doing such a wonderful thing for your husband. And I know that you probably think he would do the same for me. And so really, it sounds like a wonderful partnership that the two of you have. When we in non-medical home care provide an assessment for someone who might be considering some extra layers of support, we look at both. We look at both the partner who has Parkinson's, and then we also look at the care partner. What could someone else come in and do? There's a difference between what I can do and what I really want to do. If taking on the things that Peter used to do is okay with you, but now you're feeling like, gosh, I don't want to vacuum any longer. I don't want to go to the grocery store any longer. Whatever things are above and beyond, let somebody else take over. And sometimes it's a professional support, and sometimes it's your natural supports. You talked about your sons, and it sounds like they have also, in any way that they can, stepped up to help and support. Those are your natural supports. So allowing others and giving yourself some grace to accept support from others, in addition to the direct care that we could provide for someone like Peter.
I think that's great, is talking about accepting help from others. One of the things you just said, Ruth, that I want to kind of redirect to Cheryl, you said, you don't want to go to the grocery store. Well, the elephant in the room right now is with COVID-19. I don't think any of us want to go to the grocery store right now. So Cheryl, you want to touch a little bit on how this new COVID-19 safer at home has maybe changed some of your socialization, some of the things you did, and how you're adapting. And then when she's done, Ruth, if you want to kind of step in and talk a little bit from the caregiver side, how your business has changed with safer at home and what you guys can do versus what you did maybe before COVID-19 started. So Cheryl, you first.
I think the biggest thing is the community. So Peter was going out twice a week and being with people with Parkinson's, and which was an exercise class twice a week for an hour, right? I would stay in the car. That's my hour alone. I can do whatever I want during that hour. I would stay there in case he needed me. So I'm in the parking lot, but I can go on my phone. I can sleep sometimes when it's nice out. I mean, you can do whatever. The difficult part is not having the community, not having the family come by. We have had them come by a couple of times, and they all stand outside and we talk through the door. So at least we can see them and, do that. Peter has done the exercise classes. They're running those on Facebook 5 days a week. And on Saturday and Sunday, he actually then tunes into one of the other ones and watches also. So for him, that's helped with him moving. And actually, it's helped so much so that in the past couple of days, which is a big change for him, he has been able to take the dogs out for a walk, which he hadn't been doing. So I attribute that to 5 days a week, watching those videos, and then, on the weekends, filling in with extra time. So that's one of the things that has helped, is keeping him busy, so that every day feels like Groundhog Day for us. Our routines are so different, right? So it's that way with him too. So every day needs to have a purpose. Today we're going to do this, or today we're going to clean up the yard. We're going to get some type of routine that makes him feel like he's doing something and contributing, and you know, kind of give him something to do so he gets tired. So otherwise he would be sitting in a chair. So it's good to have him get out and do things and have a routine. I think that's.
Ruth, you want to touch a little bit about how, Cheryl, great job. I mean, the fact that he's active and walking the dogs now 5 days a week, that's great. It's finding that silver lining in a real negative time right now. But Ruth, if you want to touch a little bit on how it's changed for professional caregivers, and maybe what you've seen for the care partners that have changed really within the last maybe 4 to 5 weeks.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this because this is evolving, right? This is new, uncharted territory for all of us. So the first thing that I really want to stress is that supportive home care, which could be from your family or from a professional, is considered essential. So that our government has deemed that essential care. And so therefore, professional and families can, in fact, visit family members. There's a difference between safer at home and quarantine. And so if you know that it's okay for family or a professional caregiver to come into your home with stricter guidelines, you know that you're keeping them safe. You're still keeping your loved ones safe. So what we've been doing at Synergy is we've systematically tightened up our policies. The first thing that we're doing, and actually what I would suggest for all of your members, and especially for you and Peter, is to tell your family if they are interested in coming to visit, or if you have a caregiver coming, the first thing they should do before they arrive is check their temperature. Check for symptoms. Temperature is the first thing, and then other symptoms like a cough. So right before every visit, they should be checking for those things and sort of checking that off the box. If they're okay, then you should do the same thing. You should say, I'm going to check for my temperature because we know this goes both ways. So then you and your husband check for symptoms. Once that person arrives into your home, what we're suggesting for our Synergy caregivers is that when they arrive, they bring a pair of slippers and they take their shoes off when they enter the home so that they can be wearing something that's clean and not been out in the public. We've even suggested to our caregivers to wear maybe a different shirt or a different smock that they can, if they've been out in the public, they put on a different smock, excuse me. So that, oh, I apologize for that. So that they are coming in and they're obviously not bringing anything from the outside. The other thing that we're doing is whenever we are less than 6 feet from our clients, we're asking that the client wear a mask and that the caregiver wear a mask. And that can be a surgical mask. It doesn't have to be the fancy respirators. It can be cloth mask. It's really preventing, again, cross-contamination for both. So those are really good habits to have. One of the things that helps having somebody else in the home is that they can be the person to do some extra wiping down of surfaces. I'm sure, Cheryl, that you're plenty busy enough, and to think to add one more task on your list of wiping down doorknobs and switch plates and toilet surfaces and all of that is one more thing that you're thinking about. But that's something else, someone else in the family can do that, or a professional caregiver can do that. So I think all of those practices we have found have been proven to keep everybody safe, both the caregiver and obviously the person that we're caring for. But I think they're good practices, and it is okay. It's okay to ease into that type of protocol and type of environment in this new world that we're in.
Absolutely. Can I put you on the spot, Ruth? You said take your temperature. And I know we've all been inundated with, do this. What is the temperature that if it exceeds what number should we be a little more concerned about entering the home?
What we have been advised is anything over 100.
That's great to know. I think it gives people a number to look for. And like you said,
right.
It helps if you're having somebody come in your home, whether it's a professional caregiver or if you have to have some electricity done or something in the house, it's good to know what you should be looking for and asking people, and just being very, very safe.
Jeremy, can I also add, I forgot about gloves. We have always used gloves, and our caregivers have always made a practice when they walk into someone's home to wash their hands before they do anything. Those were things that we were already doing, but I think if someone is trying to be especially safe, they should have gloves, and they should always wash their hands upon entering someone's home.
That's a great point, and I think what we've been trying to tell our Parkinson's population is just having Parkinson's disease does not make you more susceptible to COVID-19, but the fact that Parkinson's usually strikes after the age of 62, that then puts you into the high risk category because you're over 65. So taking all the precautions you can, whether it's washing your hands, checking temperature, making sure any provider coming into your home is taking precautions as well, I think is very important. Let's segue a little bit. You know, Cheryl, you touched a lot on what Peter's doing. He's doing the exercise classes. He's staying real active. What are you doing right now while you're safer at home to keep yourself active, healthy, and making sure you're taking care of Cheryl?
Well, one of my big things is I do classes in my home, so I can sit down in my little corner, and that's where I'm filming in here is, and I can create and design cards. That's what I do. While I'm doing that to get my mind off of everything else and all the noise, I listen to a lot of books on tape. So that it's kind of like an escape thing. You can go anywhere. You know, I used to tell my kids, you can go anywhere if you can read. Well, I can work and be productive and, you know, go anywhere I want listening to a book too. So I do a lot of that. I know I have that hour 5 days a week when he's upstairs doing his class. And I, you know, keep in touch with people. I call because I'm used to people coming in a lot too. You know, that for my socialization, it's, you know, and Peter isn't always real communicative. You know, there's not a lot of chatter. So I try to keep up with family and friends while he's busy doing that too, just to, you know, sometimes you need a corner to just kind of scream, you know, just a little outlet. But I find that I can sit down and do something creative. You know, if people are sewing, if they're reading, if they're knitting, if they're doing something creative, I think that's a great thing to get your mind off of things. Turn off the TV, quit reading the things on Facebook. It's good to be informed, but it is bad to obsess. So we have to deal with what we're dealing with now and figure that out in a calm manner, I think.
Cheryl, those are great tips. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. Finding time for yourself and doing some of those things. I think the reason we're doing today's call is so often I find care partners who aren't doing any of that, and then they kind of let their health get worse, and then it really starts to snowball. So I think you're ahead of the curve, and I give you kudos for that. I'm going to ask Ruth, you know, you work with care partners from all different walks of life, whether it's Parkinson's disease, whether it's MS, whether it's others. What are the things you would really try and tell care partners on top of what Cheryl's already given them some great ideas?
I agree with you, Jeremy. I think Cheryl's doing a wonderful job finding balance and reaching out and asking for help. And you're right, not everyone does that. I have this philosophy of filling your own vessel. So we ask our, families, our care partners, to think about filling their own vessel. They're emptying that vessel of water all day long. What do they do to refill it? And Cheryl is a great example of that. You're doing a lot, identifying a lot of things that you can do to refill your own vessel. So we all have to remember to refill our own vessel. One of the ways that I suggest care partners identify how to do that is when little things come to your mind, put them on a running list and keep that running list handy. And then when someone says to you, how are you doing? What can I do? How can I help? Pull out that list. There are funny little things. It might be the neighbor next door and you say, boy, could you pick up my garbage can when it comes garbage collection? could you keep running that mower into my yard and mow my lawn once a week? Little things that could make just to that person makes them feel wonderful and that they can help you. And it really takes that few little things can come off your list and really can make a difference in the bigger picture.
And I would think right now with Safer at Home, we're all cleaning our houses. We're cleaning the basement, we're cleaning the bedroom. You're going to have little piles of those lists that once your grandkids can come visit, you probably have a whole lot of stuff for them. Probably just little things, but they're a little too heavy for you that you can look at the grandkids and go, hey, can we take that to the curb? Can we take that to donate somewhere? Or can we just move that to this storage area? So I think those are great ideas, Ruth. And Cheryl, I saw you nod your head, so I'm sure you're writing a few of them down.
That's a great idea to keep the running. If you forget, you know, days get busy and you forget. A little Post-it note with some ideas that's a great idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and I would say probably in your experience, Ruth, those little things, just asking family members to do those little things are oftentimes very rewarding for that family member because they want to help, but they're not sure how. So whether it's moving a TV for you or picking up a box, I'm sure you've seen a lot of times that just really means a lot to those people that they can help, but it's one more thing off of your checklist to do.
Absolutely. You know, another tip that I like to give when there are partners, when there's a husband and a wife or a spouse, a parent and a child that live together, whenever there are two people living together and one of them has a chronic condition, I recommend a personal emergency response system be brought into the house. And that's, what we refer to as Lifeline, right? It usually goes over your neck. And if a person has a fall or some sort of an emergency, they can push a button. That personal emergency response system has improved over the years, and now they have an automatic fall detection. So if your loved one has a fall, and let's say they're unconscious, or perhaps your loved one, you're outside in the yard and they have a fall, you won't necessarily identify that they need help. Whereas this fall detection will go off and you'll be able to get the help you need. The reason it's so important when there are care partners is because if you have an emergency, Cheryl, and your husband is panicking, he can push that button. And he doesn't have to do anything more than push that button, and he's going to get the help he needs, and you're going to get the help you need. And for your loved ones and your family and your sons at home, that is huge peace of mind for them, especially now that you and your husband are a little more shut in than you ever were. This is going to really give them greater peace of mind that you're going to be safe, and if something does happen, that you're going to get the help you need.
Another great tip. That's a good idea. We had discussed that at one point because once a year I go away on a vacation. And so we were worried about that. We were going to have somebody come in, a caregiver come in 8 hours a day, and then my son would stay in the evenings and be here at night. But they talked about that Lifeline, and I think that is a very valid point of having that, because if I'm down here and he's upstairs, I don't always know what's going on. I time it, like when he goes for a walk, I know when he should be home, and I do start worrying if he's not back when I think he should be, because I'm not with him. But yet I think he needs that independence of going out, and that gives me a little time here. So
and Cheryl,
yes.
Can I also add, since you talked about the fact that Peter's going for walks, that fall pendant has this wonderful advantage of being a GPS.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
It's an extra bonus, so that if he in fact does get confused, you have this GPS function, and the pendant can actually call the number and they can track him down.
Okay, that's a good thing, because he does sometimes get, I think the dogs bring him home, But if he's out on his own, he does sometimes get a little bit confused about where he is and which
Sure.
direction to go in.
And I can add, Cheryl, as a father to 3 teenage boys, the phones also have GPS trackers on them. So they think they're getting away with stuff. Oftentimes they're not. But I know I've heard of other care partners who use that for their spouses, that they can go, okay, he's at the corner, he's probably talking to Bob from 6 feet away. But he's, I see where he is. He stopped to talk, but he'll be back soon. So I think those are very good, helpful. I do think the life alert system is very important, because I think the point Ruth made to me that was important was, heaven forbid something happens to you, Cheryl, how does everybody react from there? So I think that's a very important one to keep your eye on, and appreciate it. I think those great tips that you both have given other caregivers. I really think, I don't see it as often, Cheryl, but the stuff you shared is, taking that hour when you do that exercise for yourself. Right now, going downstairs, doing stuff, calling people. I think the most important thing you said, and I talked to somebody else about this recently, was don't read everything that's out there. Don't watch the news. Don't watch every single press conference. Don't watch everything on Facebook, because it just gets overwhelming. So the more of that we can do, the better, and it keeps your spirits up and keeps us positive. My next question was going to be, what do you do to care for yourself, Cheryl? It sounds like you're doing a lot. Is there anything you haven't touched on that you want people to know? Hey, think of doing this to make sure you're taking care of yourself as a care partner.
I think that it is so important that, and because it's been 7 years, this has been trial and error, right? You learn a little bit more. I think asking for help was the biggest hurdle, because you don't want to do that. I don't want to bother people. But you're right, people do enjoy helping. I mean, people want to help people, and so mainly it's our family, and if the grandkids are coming by to do something or whatever, don't be afraid to ask people to help. I think that's a really important message for people to get, because it gives you're getting along with other people and communicating with other people, but also everybody needs help sometime. So probably the most difficult thing is to do that, is to ask for help. And my kids are excellent about doing that when I call, and like they can tell just from my conversation, we better make a visit. We better go and visit Mom and chat with Dad. Or take Dad over and let him watch Travis work, whatever. It's just to get him out too, because that was healthy for him at the point where we could go out, that he would just go out for a little, like they'd go to lunch. My brother would take him to lunch or something like that. And it was beneficial for both of them. So yeah, I would encourage people, don't be afraid to ask. People want to help, but you need to open up and know that you can't do it all. I mean, you just can't. It's impossible. We're community-based people. That is a better way to live, I think.
That is great advice. Ask for help. I can't even begin to tell you in my career how many times people really have trouble asking, and once they do, they realize that they should have a long time ago, because, as you said, people want to help. Speaking of asking for help, Ruth, you're a professional caregiver. You go in. You're a great resource, as are home health agencies across the state. What are the things you would kind of try and tell a care partner that you're coming in and doing an assessment that you see they're worn down? What are the things maybe you can offer them, but you would also say provide them maybe tips to take care of themselves?
I think Cheryl really touched on that. The first step is the hardest step, and that's being willing to take on and accept the help. What we as professional supportive home care recognize is, if you allow us to come in and just meet with you and your family, just to gather some information, at least it's a first step. And if you want to try a little bit of help, try it, in small bites, maybe one visit a week, just to see how that feels for your family. That's an adjustment. And think about, what is it that I'd want that person to do? Is it that I'd prefer for the professional caregiver to help my husband bathe? so that we can still be husband and wife and not, you know, ease into that caregiving role? Or is it spend time with my husband and I'm going to go run some errands? One way or another, if you and your spouse or your care partner can get time away, then you have something to talk about at the dinner table, you know? So it's really being willing to accept the help. The other thing that I've noticed in this time with Safer at Home is that more families are actually needing our support. Perhaps, you know, like Cheryl had mentioned, they're leaving the home and going to exercise classes, or they're going to some sort of a club or day program. And now they're home together. So the need for respite is even greater now than it ever was. The other thing that we have identified is that hospitals and rehab centers are tending to send people home, discharge people home a little bit sooner because they need the beds. And so our support, anywhere from housekeeping, respite, fun, to personal care, even up to 24-hour care, is actually needed more than ever. So being willing to trying it is always the biggest and the best and first step.
So I got to ask, Ruth, you said you're seeing a lot more, probably people in greater need right now than usual. I've always had the experience, I think Thanksgiving to Christmas seems to be that time where kids come home and realize, gee, mom and dad aren't as good as they used to, as I thought they were. But I think you kind of hit it that this is probably equivalent to that people are seeing certain things they maybe didn't see before. And I think you really hit the nail on the head of hospitals are discharging them well before they're ready once in a while, just because they want to get them out of the hospital and not get exposed, but also they need beds for people with COVID.
Absolutely. And sometimes people aren't aware that there are funds for respite. When we're talking about care partners, we're automatically talking about respite. And our government identifies in a lot of different resources that there are ways to fund this support. And again, you'll find that out with a visit and an assessment to see, is the person working through Parkinson's, is that person a veteran? If in the state of Wisconsin, every county has respite grant money. In 2019, I think I had 8 family members take on respite grants, and it was thousands of dollars for the year. It was really a wonderful opportunity. So I think the doctors, in studying what being a caregiver does to a loved one, have recognized that the money needs to be out there so that we can give our care partners a break.
And that's actually what we were planning through Waukesha County, where I live. We were going to start with once a week, having somebody come in and help Peter bathe. That has been suspended right now because of all this. But that was going to get us used to somebody other than family coming in. And then while was supposed to be on my vacation, that was through the county that somebody would come in certain days and stay with him. So that was a big step, which is kind of put on hold right now. But there are a lot of things available through Waukesha, through our county, through the government. One thing was pill taking. He has it looks like a spaceship, and it goes off and tells him when to take pills. So he opens the little door, takes the pills out. He doesn't have to worry about time anymore. I don't have to worry about time if I'm somewhere else working on something, you know, because he takes pills so often. So all that was offered through the county. So I would suggest people, take advantage of that, or learn, not even, it's not taking advantage. It's learning what's out there, the things that are out there, because they also have a caregivers meeting that we were going to once a month, which was really a nice thing, a nice outing for us. You know, you would go out, they would have a program, and you would have lunch and talk with families and other people, you know, caregivers with their partners. And it's a valuable resource.
But I think you said it best, Cheryl. It's not taking advantage of it, it's accessing what's out there. There are a lot of resources. And going back to your earlier statement, asking. You know, if you explore and ask for help, it's amazing what you'll find that's out there. I think you both have covered a lot of great ways to really care for the caregiver, really take care of yourself, as well as the care partner or the receiver. Either one of you, anything you want to add that we haven't touched on that you want to really get out there and share?
I think we've covered a lot of it, but I think, you know, finding a purpose every day, having a routine is very important for Parkinson's people. And I think to do that and add on a couple of extra things if they can't get out or you can't have people in is helpful for both of you. So that's what I would suggest.
Absolutely.
And I would just like to add, I think, Cheryl, you are a wonderful ambassador for how to navigate this new life for you and Peter. And if I saw you in person and if we were beyond this safer at home, I would give you a pat on the back. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. We try to spread the word to everybody we know that has Parkinson's. It's a tight community, and so it's just important to help people along, you know, especially newly diagnosed or whatever. We've had lots of little talks with people, so it's a good thing.
Thank you both, Cheryl and Ruth. Thank you both for your time today, providing resources on way to care for the caregiver. I think you've given everybody some great ideas, some great topics, and tools to use. While we are all practicing social distancing, please check in with the Wisconsin Parkinson Association frequently. We are regularly updating our website and Facebook page with exercise classes, as Cheryl mentioned earlier, as well as educational videos such as this one, and lots of other resources for you to stay safer at home. You can also email us at mail@wiparkinson.org with future topics you'd like to see covered by our local experts. Once again, I'd like to thank Cheryl and Ruth for being our guests today. Thanks to you for joining us. Take care and have a good day.